All right, so we may have people join us as we get, but right now this is just an SDI discussion. So let's talk about the SDI scenarios for using Repair Track. So right now the only SDI user that I know of is Rich Donnelly, and so at Miller Coors they are they have multiple vendors, and I think for their high volume vendors they're doing well. I think for their low volume vendors where there's only a few repairs a year, I don't think they're even trying to get those guys set up for Repair Track. And have you, Donna or Chuck, have you had a chance to talk to Rich any about what he's doing?
I have, just briefly, Forrest, and I've got a visit planned for the week after next to go out and sit down with Rich and Jeff and go through the whole process.
That'll be great. I definitely want you to come after you see Rich because I think you'll learn a lot about what what the general situation is for using it there. Well, anyway, as I understand it, at Miller Coors anyway, they're doing pretty much like the discussion we had last week, a couple weeks ago. They're doing the defining the equipment, sending it out for repair. Then all their vendors are doing is picking up the repair information and or picking up the piece of equipment, putting in the repair information, and then and warranty and sending it back to them. So I don't think that there's a whole lot going on beyond what their vendors or what we talked about a couple weeks ago with the basic section. But let's talk about some of the more advanced things in Repair Track so that you know they're there, and later you may have a need for them in some of the things you're doing. So we're going to log into Repair Track, and you can get in just like the demo that I showed you. You can get in with the username John Shop, password John, and I'm going into 01 for the database. And just like we were talking to you a couple weeks ago, these are restoring databases. Every night they restore from a master. So you can go in during the day and train and do things, and then you lose that overnight. So anyway, this is the same thing we were looking at last week, same screen, except for I added one or two items. And so there's a bunch of scenarios let's go through. The first scenario that I'd like to talk about is what do you do if you have a piece of equipment you send to the repair vendor, and the repair vendor gives you an estimate that's just beyond the cost you want to pay for repairing it. And so now you need a new piece of equipment. We're going to talk about adding a new piece of equipment in a minute. But what do you want that repair vendor to do? Well, what I would expect that repair vendor to do is do an autopsy, tell me about why that piece of equipment failed, and then scrap that piece of equipment. And so let's look at that for a moment. So let's take, we'll just pick any one of these. We'll pick this one, 435. It's an AC induction motor. And if I hit the repair side, came in with broken rotor bars. Typically broken rotor bars, it just means it's been started under load too much, and that's broken those rotor bars. So let's just take that scenario and go with it. So let's say that load, maybe 20. Joined us, anybody?
Yeah, it's Neil from Primac.
Hey Neil, good to talk to you.
Same here. Sorry about being late.
So let's just we'll do load as constant excessive load or overload as possibilities for broken rotor bars. And so what we want the shop to do is tell us what the root cause of that problem is. So let's call it a overload, and that's a root cause. Could be excessive starts. I don't know whether I have something like that in here. Let's try it. Excessive starts. So excessive starts is going to be what we're going to call a root cause, maybe an overloaded root cause. Anyway, those are all possible things that can contribute to broken rotor bars. So the plant said it had broken rotor bars when it came in. We're confirming that and saying that it had those problems. And so now we're going to save that. So that's what I would consider to be an autopsy. One of the things you guys at SDI may do is want to have a a form for autopsies, because I may have mentioned this to you before, but I talked to one of our clients to say they expect the shop to always do an autopsy on a piece of equipment, and in return for tearing it down, inspecting it, putting the information in the repair tracker, they give them the price of the copper. So when that motor or when that piece of equipment is sent in for rebuild, there's some core value of that, and they're willing to sacrifice that copper price in exchange for the shop, putting in the autopsy information. So now we've got that autopsy information in, and at that point, what happens in TANGO, and we may get to this in some other of these training sessions, is there's a lot of aggregation of the information. I want to know how many motors failed for broken rotor bars or excessive loads, and what locations they were in, and things like that. And so TANGO pulls that together, but you have to have those causes of failure. So now I've put those in. They're in here. And so here's our failure information. We may also want to add pictures of the broken rotor bar. I mean, just like our last repair track discussion, we're going to in a diagram. So we've uploaded that. That's kind of big. I would ask my shops not to put in 2 megabyte files. It's not terrible, but it just causes a lot of speed problems when you download that information. So if they, and a lot of times you can't tell the difference between a 100K and a 2 meg file. So unless you're expanding it a lot. So, that'll be up to you, but you may want to just instruct your vendors not to put big photograph files on. But anyway, now I'm going to save that. I've got causes of failure. I've got the any sort of inspection and photographs uploaded. And so now for that one, I can come in, and all I did here, let's just go back so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going in and I'm clicking on this link for the tag number, 453. And you see there's a scrap equipment button. So when your vendor wants to scrap that piece of equipment, you'll click that. That'll show him all the information he's put in. If you wanted him to put in a price for what it would have taken to repair it, you could have done that. But if I hit save, he wants to know when I scrapped it. We'll do it as of today. Any sort of comments about it not being repairable or anything like that would have been okay. And anyway, that piece of equipment's now scrapped. If I went and searched for it in TANGO, it would tell me it was scrapped, and off we go. So anyway, that's what I'll call scenario one, and that's it. I've got a piece of equipment. It's not repairable, but I still expect my vendor to tell me why it failed and to scrap it for me. Okay. Now your plant could scrap it too if you wanted to scrap that back in TANGO. It's the same button is there back in TANGO, but you might as well have the shop do that for you. It's that way they don't have to worry about sending it back and than you picking it back up and scrapping it. All right, so that's kind of scenario one. We're in our autopsy information. Again, at SDI, they tell me that they do not want their vendors putting in new purchase information. When they buy a piece of equipment, they want that to come in, get loaded to the SDI online, and that information passed through the interface into TANGO. And so there are abilities to add a piece of equipment and to then put in purchase information and send that piece of equipment to repair if you need to do that. So let's talk about it, even though SDI isn't going to do it. Neil, you may find some clients that need to do that. So if I need to add a new piece of equipment, oops, that's not good. Fairly unavailable. Heard of such a thing. Try that one more time. No. All right. So, and remember the last time we talked about this, you set up your repair vendors for the types of equipment that they can repair. This vendor is evidently set up for motors and valves. That's an interesting combination, but on motors, here's the different types of motors they can repair. And so I'm going to add an AC induction motor. So if they sell this motor to you, or if this motor comes in from the shop and it doesn't have a tag on it, and then the work hadn't been done in TANGO, then they can add it to the TANGO system. So let's make this a 445T, model number, manufacturer. This is going to be a Balzor, plant tag, yeah, power, one, well, that's two. Chuck, you're getting kind of noisy there. You might want to mute that.
Gotcha.
All right, thanks. I appreciate that. That took a lot of background noise off. Anyway, you see that I've given this piece of equipment its nameplate information. I've also, since I'm at the shop, I can do things like air gaps, bars, slots, bearings. So those are all good things that you may want to add as well. I'm going to hit save. And so now it's created EFP05. And so now Repair Track is asking me, do I want to go ahead and send it for repair? Well, obviously this is Repair Track. If I've added a piece of equipment, it's either brand new and I'm just adding it to TANGO, or I want to send it for repair. If I want to send it for repair, I'm going to put in a little bit of repair information. You see that Rockridge Repair is already set as the shop, and that little red slash tells me I can't change that. So I can't, if I'm at Rockridge Repair, which I am for Repair Track, then I can't send it to a different shop, obviously. Purchase number, requisition numbers, account numbers, send on date. Oh, let's back it up here a day and save. So now back to the start page. You see the EFP05 has been added. So that's the piece of equipment. I added that piece of equipment and I sent it out for repair. And so now, just like all the rest of these that have been sent out by the plant through TANGO, that piece of equipment's there. So that would happen if a piece of equipment was sent by the plant, it didn't have a tag, it wasn't in TANGO, and you wanted the plant to add that piece of equipment into the system. For SDI, I don't think that happens. Again, Rich Donnelly's told me that will never happen, so that's not a scenario. In fact, we can even turn off that add new equipment button. And I think that is in some of your databases, Chuck. I don't think that button is even there in some of the things you do, because you don't want your vendors adding new equipment. You're going to do that through your own systems. There's another scenario that's kind of close to that, and that is a piece of equipment has come in to the repair shop, and it does have a tag on it, but it's not on your list. So the plant sent it to you, but it isn't here on this list. So what would cause that? Well, typically it would cause it by they sent the piece of equipment and landed on your loading dock, but somebody in the plant didn't do the work to send it out for repair in Tango. So let's do that scenario for a minute. I'm going to I'm hitting find a piece of equipment. You see I've got lots of options under find, so I can look at my, just as I'm a repair shop, I may have a previous tracking number, or I may have a previous PO number. The dates, I can find all the repairs that I did in a date range. But I'm going to look at plant tag. Plant tag, and I'm going to do 3210. That's a motor that's on a compressor, and we were looking at that last time, if you'll remember. And I'm going to do search. And Tango's going to go off and find 3210. And so there is a permission. If I go into database admin, there's a permission that says let the vendor send installed equipment out for repair. And so a lot of times shops or plants don't want their vendors to be able to do that. But if you do, then and I've got that turned on, then you get this, and then I can go and send for repair. Again, it's being sent out to Rock Ridge because I'm the shop. I'm logged into that shop right now. And again, I've got the same sort of requisition numbers, account numbers, sent on dates. Save. Removal date. So it's warning me the removal date cannot be after the sent on date. Okay, so let's figure out what I've done there. Removal date to 26th, and the sent on date to 25th. Yep, that's not good. Let's back the removal date up a bit. So you see, Tango tries to keep you out of trouble. All right. So now I've taken tag number 3210. I've removed it from an install location, and I have sent out for repair. So there it is on my repair list. And that can only happen if the plant, through database admin, gives the shop the permissions to do that. Sometimes we have, a lot of times we have clients that are using Tango primarily for condition information, but they still want to capture the repair information, even though they're not going to track that piece of equipment through its functional locations. They're not going to track that 3210 was installed at Syntac 2, but they still want to capture all the repair information for every piece of equipment. So they're going to let their repair vendors do all this send for repair and add the equipment and everything, figuring that all they're really accomplishing in Tango is accumulating all the repair information for all their equipment. So they have an inventory of equipment put in by the repair vendors, and they've got each repair. They aren't using the full capability of tracking it through its life cycle, but it's better than nothing at all. And you know, if you don't do anything else, then what's going to happen is your repair vendors are going to send you an email, and that email is going to get lost, and you're really not going to be able to keep up with repair information very well. All right, so we've gone through a couple scenarios. We've gone through the autopsy and scrap. We've gone through the sending a piece of equipment out for repair that's installed. And again, remember the goal today was to talk about some of the advanced functions. Let's see, I'm looking at my notes here for a second to see what else I want to talk about. There is, you know, if I bought a new piece of equipment, oops, let me click the right button here, guys. Just like in Tango, if I buy a new piece of equipment, through, and let's say it's provided by the repair vendor, then there is a function to add the purchase information, so I can add in purchase and warranty information from the shop as well. And so, again, SDI has said they don't want to do that. They don't want their shops and the shops and new equipment vendors putting that information in through Repair Track because they're already doing it through other systems. But if your repair vendor selling you equipment, you don't have that coming into other systems, then that's a great way to get it into Tango. All right, so remember we added a new piece of equipment a minute ago, and part of that new piece of equipment was putting in a QR tag, or I'm sorry, putting a plant tag on that piece of equipment. So I'm adding it, and so since, well, I added 05. Let's just use that one for a minute. But you see that you've added, you can add a piece of equipment. Go back here to this for a moment, back to the start page. All right, so a moment ago we built EFP05. We did that through the add equipment. So one of the things that typically will happen is that a plant will give their shop vendors a stack of QR tags. And they say that I want this QR tag put on the piece of equipment. And it could be that you want them to put a tag number on there in addition to the QR tag, or it could be that you want them to use the QR tag. So let's go with some QR tags for a minute. I was playing with EFP1. That's one that I was working with earlier and making sure everything worked for you guys. So let's take this QR tag. It's got human readable YGEDZV. So that's the human readable. In fact, I'm just going to grab that for a second. I think I am. Oops. That's not what I wanted. Let's try that again. Oh, let's go to this one. Control C. There we go. All right, so we're taking Y4S, so forth. And we're scanning that QR tag. So back what I just did, let's go back all the way to the beginning. If I scan that QR tag with my smartphone or a tablet, I'll scan it. It's the same as if I click this link. So if I scan that, it takes me to this login page. Let's log in as John Shop, which is our shop user. And so this is saying what tag number do I want to put in. So if the tag number is EFP 05, then I'm going to search that. Oops, let's get a P there instead of an O. So I found EFP 05. It's out for repair right now. And I'm going to assign that QR tag. So now I have the ability to do multiple things with EFP 05 through your tablet or smartphone. I can take EFP 05 and I can put it in stores. So this remove equipment function, you see when I click it, I can send it to scrap or send it to, I don't have stores set up on this, but if I had stores set up, I could send it to stores. I could send people an email about this, so if I wanted to send you an email about this piece of equipment, I could do that with the send an email. And so what that does, oops, sorry about that. So see if we can do that a different way here. Anyway, I won't argue with Tango right this second, but anyway, that would let me send an email. And then you see there's looking at linked documents. There's lots of looking at history. Lots of things I can do in Tango Mobile once I have a QR code installed on a piece of equipment. So now that QR tag that we just looked at, I can also search a piece of equipment. EFP05 was a tag number I put in, but if I go back into Tango Mobile, I go to search, find equipment, and I go to plant tag. There's my human readable that's on the QR tag. If I search for that, it finds that piece of equipment. Even though I've got a physical tag, EFP05, I can search for any tag, any QR tags that are on there. I could use the QR tag there. I could put that tag number in as well, but I don't have to. I can also just search the human readable on the QR tag and find that piece of equipment. So either works. So what we have with some of our clients is, again, they'll buy a stack of QR tags. They'll hand them out to their vendors for valves and motors and all sorts of bearing chocks, all sorts of things. And they expect their vendor to tag that piece of equipment, put the information into Tango if it's not already there, put the QR tag on it, assign it, and then it goes back in. And then when that piece of equipment is sent back to them, they have that QR tag, and it's been entered in Tango. So they make their vendors do a lot of work for them for this equipment tracking part of the package. All right. I think I have run through the major scenarios I wanted to cover today. Any questions from anybody about anything? We've looked at start page. We've looked at the find existing equipment, add new equipment. The updates we talked about last time. I will say that there's one other QR tag approach, and that is that if you're not putting QR tags on your piece of equipment, but you want to use it, and this would be great for SDI, I think. This equipment traveler can be printed by your repair shop. You see, this is a General Electric 60 horsepower. When they send this piece of equipment back to you, if they'll take that, print it, put it in an envelope or whatever they do, but then when you're when the people back at the stores scan that QR tag, they can go back and do exactly the same things that we were just looking at. They can take that piece of equipment, use their tablet to put it into stores. There's all sorts of Tango Mobile things that they can do from that QR tag. But that's a real easy way to say this piece of equipment's come back in, scan that QR tag, and tell Tango it's back into the storeroom or back into a functional location. All right, guys, any questions? Anything you want to talk about?
No, I'm good.
All right, not getting a whole lot of questions here. And the goal for today was to take you beyond where we were 2 weeks ago. And so 2 weeks ago we did the basics of a typical plant uses repair track. Today we went to the more advanced functions if you're having your vendor do a lot of work for you beyond just put in repair information. So I hope that answered your questions. If anybody needs anything, just let us know, and we'll be glad to go through it again with you.
Thanks, Forrest.
All right, you're welcome, and thanks for tuning in. And I don't remember. I think next session, 2 weeks from now or so, is rounds logging, if I remember right.
Thanks again, Forrest.
All right, any more questions, anything? Well, good. I appreciate you being here, and we'll talk to you a little later.
Thanks, Forrest.
Okay, thanks, Forrest. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.